Hello, I'm Adam Berry, and for tonight's sleep story, I want to take you through a journey onto the London West End stage. But before we begin, you must get comfortable under the covers and snuggle yourself up. Take a few big, deep breaths, slowly in and slowly out. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Now I want you to extend your out breath for a little bit longer. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in, 2, 3, 4. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you keep focusing on your breathing, I will begin our sleep story. In 2013, I was lucky enough to be in one of the biggest West End shows London has ever seen at the National Theatre on London's South Bank. It was a production of William Shakespeare's Othello, a play about jealousy, revenge, and of course, love. I have always been seduced by the energy a theatre has, the stillness of the auditorium, and the magic of following in the footsteps of some of the greatest actors of all time. And this particular show was a dream come true. The show opened on Tuesday, the 16th of April 2013, and was performed over 100 times on the famous Olivier stage. And opening night was something to behold. I woke up like you do every day, except this day there was an overwhelming sense of joy. Even though the event wasn't taking place until 7:30 that day, I couldn't help but smile every time I allowed myself to think about the way in which this day could change the rest of my life. We had already done a week of previews, so I had a sneaky feeling about what was about to happen. But today was different. Today, it felt as if there was more pressure, more fun, in what was about to happen. I got washed and dressed as normal and headed out to the high street to get a coffee. Everyone I met, I just wanted to tell them what was about to happen this evening. But alas, I just sat and sipped my cappuccino, reflecting on what may or may not happen. I noticed I was checking my watch a lot more than normal. I almost felt like a child on Christmas Eve, waiting for midnight and for Santa to call. I knew my routine. I knew my plan. I'd done it all that week. But time just wasn't moving fast enough. My call time was 5:30. It was now 11 a.m. I couldn't hold myself together much longer, so I grabbed the first bus I saw to the train station and started the most important day of my life. The train journey was fun. Texts were rolling in from my family wishing me luck. My leg was twitching the whole way, and because I had so much time to kill, I decided to walk most of the way to the theatre. The walk from Fenchurch Street to South Bank is one of extreme significance on a day like this, because you walk past the iconic Globe Theatre. I felt very close to the wonderful history of Shakespeare's London, and I was now becoming the tiniest part of it. I remember stopping outside the Globe Theatre, taking it in, thinking about the times I'd been there watching fantastic actors before me, and tonight I get to share a different stage with people who will hopefully be experiencing the same emotions I have as they gaze upon a stage. I kept walking towards the National Theatre, watching the hustle and bustle of London pass me by. People doing their everyday things, unaware of how special today was to me. I was unaware too, unaware if any of these people were having a significant day as well. I suppose we are all biased our own story a little too much. With every step through London, I felt like I grew more and more. The glistening Thames River on one side, the Tate Modern on the other. I've always felt at home in London, but today there was a deeper connection. Today, it was like the city was going to let me live my dreams. The city that I have spent so much time in was gracious enough to let me create a memory so significant to who I was, and I couldn't be more thankful if I tried. London soon whizzed by, and before I knew it, I was at the stage door of the theatre. There's a sign that's lit up, that is so simple but yet so effective. It just says, "Stage Door," in big black letters. Its dull glow seemed brighter today. As I walked into the entrance, I took one last deep breath. I'd never had an opening night at a theatre like this before, and therefore had no idea what to expect. You could sense the energy about the building as my head immediately snapped left and saw a table of flowers, gifts and cards for every cast and crew member. Rory, Adrian, Nicholas, Jonathan, Olivia, Lindsay. I laid out my gifts and cards to everyone and tried to take everything in my stride. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude. I can barely remember who I saw, who I said hello to, and who wished me the usual break a leg. But I wouldn't want it any other way. I was at the theatre early, and there was a point to my punctuality. Once I had headed to my dressing room and put my bag away, I made my way to the auditorium. It wasn't empty. There was some stage crew sorting out some finishing touches and a few other people milling about. But I just sat there. Sitting in an empty auditorium before a show is about to happen is one of my happy places. There is something so significant about the purity and the stillness of the energy the auditorium gives you. It has a focus like nothing else I have ever experienced. It helps make you razor sharp, yet wonderfully soft and open. The Olivier Theatre is no different. Its stage is expansive, and the theatre is like that of a Greek amphitheatre. I had spent many moments sat in one of the 1,127 seats, but I was too keenly aware that no moment will ever be like this again. Right now, sat here, I will never get again. And I was going to just allow it to happen. No trying, just being. As I sat there, I imagined my heroes who had walked before me on that stage, from Laurence Olivier himself, to Simon Callow, Maggie Smith, Michael Gambon, and Daniel Day-Lewis. Following in the footsteps of such people was an honor not lost on me, and I couldn't wait to feel what they felt, to experience a stage so moving, an audience so giving. To be able to comprehend what they all talk about in their books, to experience it for real, was a moment I will forever treasure. Time ticked along at a quicker pace once I had enjoyed the peaceful tranquility of the auditorium before the show was to begin. In the theatre, pre-show time is your own, except for two markers, the half and the 5-minute call. I meandered back to my dressing room to try and relax myself into a state of calm and stillness in the hubbub and excitement of such an evening. As I walked through the corridors of the National Theatre, I gazed quietly at quotes on the wall such as, "Silence is the perfectest herald of joy. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. If music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and die." I walked back through the narrow corridors of the building, and no sooner had I made it to my dressing room, I heard the backstage relay system click on. For the company of Othello, tonight on the Olivier stage, this is your half-hour call. You have 30 minutes. Suddenly, the hairs start to stand up. The blood starts pumping a little bit quicker, and I slowly made my way back to the stage to begin my physical and vocal warm-up. A few members of the company were there aligning themselves, centering themselves, and preparing to deliver one of the greatest plays ever written. I walked upon the stage and looked out into the vast expanse of the auditorium. I tried to imagine the 2,000 eyes that would be looking back at me this evening. I tried to visualize what was about to happen and my small role in this huge undertaking. I tried to stay as calm as I could, but I was terribly excited. I began to warm my voice up through some deep humming, working the sounds through my vocal cords and into my mouth. You have to work very hard to experience every sound the mouth can make. As in delivering Shakespeare, you need everything at your disposal. I then started to combine some physical movement. This is designed to relax the arms, the legs, and would allow my body to resonate sounds the whole audience will be able to hear. When you combine movement with the breath and the sounds in your body, you end up in a state of readiness. It's a really very astounding feeling. You are completely ready for anything to happen. Yet you feel so relaxed and calm, it's almost like you are seeing, feeling, and experiencing everything slower than it's actually happening. As my warm-up continued, I felt my body's sounds develop more and more. The sounds coming from me became truer and truer to who I am and what I had to do in 15 minutes' time. At the 15-minute mark, you have to clear the stage. The house will be opened. So I headed back to my dressing room. I quickly checked my costume was where it needed to be for one of my quick changes and began to do everything I could to remain as calm as possible. The emotion was tantalizing. The energy was buzzing around the building, and now it was just a case of waiting. I sat in my dressing room, and stared at myself in the mirror. I just calmly told myself that everything would be okay. That this was your dream coming true, and to enjoy every second of what was about to happen. I kept going over the performance in my head, working the moments I needed to work, and focusing on putting myself into a space to do the best I could. The relay clicked on again. For the company of tonight's performance of Othello, this is your 5-minute call. One last dash of makeup, one last swig of water. 5 minutes had never passed me by so quickly before. For the company of tonight's performance of Othello, this is your beginner's call. Beginners, please. Up I rose from my chair. I heard a few break a legs in the changing room, as theatrical tradition dictates. And then from afar there was a rattling noise that grew louder and louder. The whole of the building were hanging out of their dressing rooms to wish us luck for the performance, as is the tradition of the National Theatre. I walked slowly to my stage left entrance, wished a few others all the best, and stepped into the wings, where I just waited, and waited, and waited. I could hear the buzz of the auditorium, hear some mumblings of the audience, and then it fell silent. It was a silence of absolute focus. You could have heard a pin drop. Then the assistant stage manager whispered into his headset, "Music cue 1, lights cue 1. Then I waited some more, listened with bated breath to the performance that had now begun. Excited, nervous, but calm. And before I knew it, I heard Othello say, "Not I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. Is it they?" Upon which I walked onto the stage, faced with the bright lights and 2,000 twinkling eyes staring at me in the purest of silence. My dreams had finally come true.